So today we're going to be changing the oil on this Vauxhall Zafira. It has the 1.8 litre petrol, and this is a 2004 model. So I'm just going to show you how to jack it up, and then I'll show you where the oil filter is and how to drain out the engine oil. So I just like to jack up the car here from the pinch weld, which is a good solid spot. Just make sure I've got a little rubber cushion on my jack here. Make sure you've got something to cushion it. If you go straight on with a piece of metal, you might bend the pinch weld. So you do need something there. Some people use a block of wood. So the filter that we've been sent is a cartridge type, which is pretty standard for Vauxhall, so I didn't bat an eyelid when I sent it. But actually this car has a screw-on type, which you can see just down here where my hand is there. There's a screw-on type filter. So we have the wrong oil filter. So always, it's a good learning point that, and I haven't shown it in the other videos I've done, but always check your parts are right, because if you pull off the old filter and then don't have a new one to go on, and you've only got one car, you'll be on your push bike to go and get one. So we're underneath the car. This is the oil drain plug. Just to zoom out a little bit for perspective. So that's where that is. It's a T45 Torx. And when you undo this, you need to make sure that socket is properly seated. And it shouldn't be that tight. There you go, that's undone. And then the rest of that should come out by hand. You just need to make sure your bucket is underneath it when you pull it the rest of the way out. We're going to show the majority of this filter removal from the top, because if I go any closer in, the sunlight will ruin it. But basically I just put my filter wrench over it and then we'll break it loose, and once it's broken loose it should come off pretty easily by hand. You don't put it back on with a tool, you just screw it back on by hand as tight as you can. So with the oil filter being stuck on there, I mean I'm pulling on it as hard as I can, it's not coming loose, so my wrench keeps slipping off. You may find the same thing. I actually changed the oil in this last time as well, so I only did it hand tight, so it just goes to show how much that seal can stick. I'm going to whack a screwdriver through it, through the end of the filter, and then I'll use this to be able to lever it off. This is like a last resort guerrilla method, but sometimes that's what you need. We've already drained out the oil, so the filter needs to come off. Probably after about half an hour, just half an hour trying to get this thing off. It's finally coming. So this oil filter was one of the worst ones I've ever removed. It just took so much effort. Snapped my my wrench, and I thought, okay, that's not too bad. So I did my last ditch effort and I whacked a screwdriver through it, and then I put my spanner on it to get a little bit of leverage and used that to break it loose. It still wouldn't come loose, it just snapped my screwdriver handle. And eventually I just had to get a pair of grips on it and just crush the sides and just wrench on it for all my worth. I mean, I've had wheel bolts that come out easier than that. That was crazy, but it's out now. Now to get the oil into the oil filter, just start it, let it run for a bit, make sure the oil light goes out, no oil light, there we go, that's all good. If you have an auto, make sure it's in park. And then you just want to quickly check for any leaks from the sump or from the bottom of the oil filter. And then drop it onto the ground and then just check the oil level, make sure it's good. So you can see here we're right up to the top of the hatched markings there, and that is exactly the way that we want it, so that's perfectly filled.